This is my third time filming this. Better be fucking good. I like creepy stories. I enjoy creepy stories. They just keep my mind going. Creepypastas are basically exactly that. They are essentially creepy stories that originate on the internet. And I've been reading creepypastas for years. First one I read, I was about 12. Wow, my throat was closing as I was speaking. I think 2009 is when they first started coming out. Initially, I wanted to share some of the, I guess, more mind-fucking creepypastas that I found. I've been reading a lot lately. I found 4 that I found very interesting, very weird. These are summarized versions. If you want to read the actual versions of these, I will have links down below us. Okay, let's just jump into number 1. Number 1 is called I Can See Other People's Auras, and it is a curse. Start of the story, a man describes his gift that he has had since he was younger. The ability to see essentially a ring of light around people. And the ring of light, he can depict usually who are good or bad people. He states that he's able to see people's auras right from birth, meaning that it does not change with age, and even in certain circumstances. Like if a child is born into a very horrendous household, they can still have a very light aura, because that's just a very good person. The man goes into his current life and how he fell in love and how he's about to welcome a baby. And when they give him the baby's aura is black. He's terrified. The only encounter he's ever had with someone with an aura that dark was a man who murdered his ex-wife. The writer states how even 2 days after the kid is born, his aura is even darker than how he was when he was born. So the guy contemplates taking the child's life in fear of what the kid is going to grow up to be. But of course, he can't bring himself to do it. At the end of the story, the man contemplates taking his own life due to not being able to see what his aura is. He is afraid that it is worse than he believes. You cannot see your own. He states that he can see his own body outline in dark gray on his own bed, which probably initiates that his aura is not the best if it's dark gray. The strangest security tape I have ever seen. This story begins with a gas station worker who has been working with a new coworker as of late, whose name is Jeremy. Now, Jeremy was a bit of an odd guy, having a very creepy laugh and not speaking to a lot of people. But he got his job done, so nobody really thought anything of it. Until a random case of thievery started happening right after Jeremy's shifts. The writer's boss asked him if he can check the security tapes and see if he can see anything. And he does. He pops the first one in and everything goes normal. Jeremy changes his drawer from the previous worker and waits for customers. Nothing goes wrong for the first hour until the next hour. When the tape cuts to the next hour, the same things happen. The same people come in with the same everything. Buy the same things, do the same things, same movements. At first he thinks it's just a simple coincidence until the next hour hits and it's the same thing. And the next hour, almost like everyone was on a continuous loop. And this man is horrified. He's more horrified because Jeremy is the only one who seems to be out of this time lapse, stocking shelves and putting ice in the machines and mopping, completely unaware that everyone has been doing the same thing every single hour. And at this point, the writer is freaking out, so he skips to the end to see if Jeremy had stolen anything before he left. Thankfully, he did not. At exactly 12:03, Jeremy's face covers the screen, almost like he can see him, like he's watching him. Guy freaks out, fumbles with the remote, trying to turn it off, but his face is gone immediately. Rewinds it back to 12:03, and there is nothing. Then he pops in another tape from another angle to see if he can maybe catch him on a chair or something. There's no Jeremy at all. But he does notice that the motor oil seems to disappear. So the next day, he shows his boss. So now the boss is freaked out. They're both freaked out. And now they're just trying to contemplate on how to confront this guy. What are they going to do? What are they going to say? They're horrified. They just don't have any answers for what's going on. But Jeremy never shows up. And then a weird series of events happen. When the author is updating the story, he'll update it once, twice, then 3 times. All say the same thing. No sign of Jeremy. We tried calling his phone, but it had been disconnected. We're calling the police. That was his update 3 different times, until eventually he is knocked out of the loop. Literally. The man blacks out, and when he comes to, he sees his boss. Boss is frozen. Not just his boss. His watch is frozen. His phone is frozen. The person up at the counter is frozen. Time has froze, but he was the only one who was aware of it. So he rushes out of the gas station and runs home. And as he's running home, he notices everything around him. Everything is frozen, like statues. So he gets home, time turns back on, he stays home. So the next day, his boss and him call the police. But the police are completely oblivious to the time freeze, and they're more concerned about the missing motor oil. But after some convincing, they're able to get them to at least look for the guy. And since the boss had all applications on file, they were able to find his address. So they go to that lot, but that lot was empty. Years before, that lot had been burnt down. Since this was a very small town, everyone knew this story. A guy went crazy, covered his house in oil, and torched it, but the man was never found. The story ends with the writer finishing the story and updating it, but not until he points out that he's going to work and there's a new guy starting there named Jeremy. Number 3 is simply just called Masterpiece, and I had no idea what I was getting into when I read this one. This is a shorter story, but it begins with a child simply just trying to sleep in a room with his parents. Only his parents are not asleep, they're dead. So the child had woken up to screaming coming from his parents' room. But instead of immediately going to check that out, he goes to the bathroom first. And as he exits the bathroom, he notices there's blood on the carpet. So he gets scared and he runs back to his room and hides under the covers. As he's hiding, he hears his door open and a creature walks in, holding his 2 parents. This creature is smooth, hairless, no clothes, no face essentially, got a hunchback, almost like a caveman. Only this thing knew exactly what it was doing. The thing had positioned his parents so that they are staring at him. Parents are dead. And the creature draws a pentagram-like picture out of blood on the wall and then writes a message. But the kid, he can't read the message because he's hiding. The creature positions itself under the kid's bed. The kid peeks out and he adjusts to the dark and he reads the message. Blood runs cold. It simply says, "I know you're awake." Our final one is simply called The Disappearance of Ashley, Kansas. Now, bear with me on this one. It's a little confusing. That's it. It's just a little confusing. This story is about a small town in Kansas called Ashley. Population only 679. That had disappeared one day due to a very big natural disaster. But not before that, a bunch of other weird things were happening in this town. A few days before the disaster, a lot of people were calling in about a black hole-like opening at the top of the sky. That's just the first instance. And the next morning after this, an officer coming from the neighboring town of Hayes was driving into Ashley in the one-way street everyone else always takes. Only this road seemed to curve itself and got the officer lost, had rerouted him back to Hayes, which made no sense. He had contacted the other officers and had stated that he was brought back, and everyone was very concerned because it's a one-way road. It didn't curve. So later that morning, all the other officers came to see for themselves, and they all had the same issue. They could not get into Ashley. These are all officers from Hayes. Since Ashley had a very small police department, all their main calls went to the neighboring town because that's how close it was. For some reason, the only street leading into Ashley stopped leading into Ashley and would reroute them right back to Hayes. All while this was happening, more people were calling in about the dark opening in the sky that officers had advised people to not leave their homes unless absolutely necessary. Later that same night, a woman had reported her neighbors and their children missing. Apparently, the family had tried to leave Ashley, never returned. The officers are very confused by this because they've been out in the front road all day. No reports of a car or a family, nothing. It's like that family had just vanished. A couple mornings later, more calls were coming in. but not about the hole in the sky, about it being in complete darkness. This is at 10 in the morning. The sun had never risen on this town. And then after hearing this, Hayes had requested a helicopter to fly above the town and see what's going on. The helicopter never reported a town under them. And then after this, just starts a whole wave of random stuff happening. Full reporting with a girl seemingly to be communicating with her dead father, and then taking it a step further and trying to join him by walking out into the dark. And all 217 of the children, which are all of them in that town, seemingly just disappeared. And then a fire happening just randomly, not knowing where it came from, that didn't seem to stop. And then the story ends with a very frightened mother calling the Hayes police about seeing her son. But her son had been dead for a year, and then crying on the phone saying that they're back. And then the officer's just like, who's back? And she's like, just the children. They came back through the fire. This poor lady is crying. She's hiding. She's trying to be quiet. And the officers can hear muffled footsteps and a child's voice. The conversation goes on for a little while until the very end, where the officers hear the footsteps again. The officers could hear the muffled footsteps, but they were getting closer. The child had found her, and the call ends with the officers hearing, "Mommy, I found you," before the line goes dead. Weird way to end it, but that one was weird. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. This one's a little different than my SCP video. My SCP video was about 45 minutes long, maybe longer. Some people like the longer videos, some people don't. If you enjoyed this one, let me know. If you like my longer videos, let me know that too. If you didn't like them at all, let me know that too. Whatever. I might post a part 2 to this. Find some other pretty weird ones to talk about. Maybe not. We'll see. Anyway, hope you all have a very, very good day or night, wherever you are. You all have a good day and stay creepy. Whee!